Hey everyone, Locky here from Ninja Kiwi. We've got update 4.3.1 about to land sometime soon. In the next couple of days I expect, fingers crossed on that one. Bringing you some balance changes. The Cobra balloon adjustment, price gets increased from 500 to 550. I think this is a good change. Cobras are pretty powerful at the moment and this will slow down people who are trying to get balloon adjustment up against you. Cobra misdirection. The price is increased by $250 to $3,500. I think this is a good change because one attack you might want to use on a Cobra user is sending a BFB or a number of Moabs. And if misdirection is cheap, then it's quite easy for them to get that up and send the BFB straight back at you. So increasing the price of misdirection makes it a little bit more difficult for a Cobra user to counter the BFB push, which I think a BFB should be a threat to a Cobra user. It should be a good way for an opponent to try and pressure the Cobra user back when they're just getting a lot of balloon adjustment up. So I think those changes are good. Moving along, we've got the Dartling Gunner. The 00 Dartling Gunner's price has been decreased to $850. That's $100 cheaper. Now, the Dartling Gunner is not such a popular tower. He's kind of expensive to get up and he doesn't pop that much for the money early on. So hoping that little price tweak makes him a little bit more affordable just as a possible starting tower in the early game. And 01 Powerful Darts has had the pierce increased from 3 to 4. It's going to pop more balloons and make it a more effective starting tower. So I think that's a really good change. Monkey Ace, ground zero damage has been increased from 350 to 400. This is an interesting one. It's not particularly visible in the game, but as Moab and BFB, oh my god, health and speed ramping starts to kick in, ground zero does less and less damage. You cannot just use a ground zero and take out all the Moabs on the screen once their health starts ramping up. So I think that damage increase is going to help a little bit. It's going to make Monkey Ace a little bit more of a viable choice for the later game. And the 02 Spy Plane has had its price decreased from 400 to 350. Now that was a a little bit of a mess up in the last patch. It wasn't actually supposed to have its price increased, so that just brings it back to where it was meant to be. I'm happy for that. Moving along to the Monkey Village. The Monkey Village is one I'm very excited about. The 00 Monkey Village has had its price decreased from $1,500 to $1,250. $250 cheaper, a little bit easier to get your Monkey Village up. Next up, we've got the Monkey Fort. The price decreases from $900 to $600. It's $250 cheaper to get your Monkey Village up. It's then another $300 cheaper to get Monkey Fort. So that's $550 less money that you have to spend on your route to getting camo detection up with your village. And I think that makes the village a much more viable support tower to use with something like the Glue Gunner or the Ice Tower to defend. The problem with those is those options are that neither the Glue Gunner or the Ice Tower sees camo, and so people tend not to bring them because they don't have quite as much utility. But really hoping that the Monkey Village is going to see a bit more use now with that. So the Monkey Fort price decreases. 20 Jungle Drums price has decreased from 1,500 to 1,300. That's great. That makes your towers fire faster, so that's pretty cool. And then the 03 Monkey Intelligence Bureau price decreased from 4,300 to 4,000. So everything's getting a little bit cheaper with the Monkey Village. This is awesome. I do think the Monkey Village is an underused, underrated tower. It's actually very powerful, and when you combine it with other things, I mean the boost that it gives to all your other units is incredibly powerful. So let's see how that plays out. I'm excited. The final change to the Monkey Village is the 04 MIB Call to Arms ability no longer stacks with other MIB Call to Arms. So if you have multiple villages, instead of using them all at once, that used to give a kind of exponential boost every time you use the MIB Call to Arms on additional villages. You would get a sort of exponential increase on your firing power, to the point where towers were firing so fast that they could destroy almost anything. It's kind of crazy, and I'm happy that glitch has been fixed. I mean, it was fun to use, but we saw problems as well where if your opponent was on a slower device, it was even possible that their device might crash when you use the ability, because it caused your monkeys to fire so fast, and that's just not cool. So Bruno and I tested this out, and you can see a little bit of footage playing in the background. MIB Call to Arms is still really, really powerful, and I think it's possible to cycle the ability rather than using, you can still have 3 or 4 MIB Call to Arms up, but rather than using them all at once for some really OP firepower for 10 seconds, you can use them one at a time. As soon as you see that Oh my God coming in, you use the first one. After 10 seconds when it expires, engage the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and you basically have a lot of your towers being boosted over a longer period of time. That still works out very, very well. So interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. Now up to the next change, looking at the mortar tower. The big one has had its price increased from 6,000 to 7,500. Now the mortar is an incredibly powerful tower, and we've seen it become the sort of dominant tower choice in most arena strategies at the moment. I do think that burning stuff is very powerful, and I think that it pops a lot of the early grouped balloons fairly cheaply, and that gives the person who's using the mortar a chance to either farm very aggressively or send a lot of eco, because they don't have to worry too much about what their opponent is sending at them. Now that hasn't been tweaked. I'm interested to see how this plays out, but the big one price increase, I do think, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, but the Ninja mortar strategy with farms, it is vulnerable to a regrow rainbow rush. In fact, mortar and Ninja doesn't really stop regrow rainbows very well at all, unless you upgrade your mortar to a big one. Now, with that price increase, you're going to have to sell 3 to 4 farms, possibly, to get the big one up, which is a lot. So I think there's going to be a window of opportunity to take down a Ninja farm mortar user between sort of round 13 and 15. If they don't have enough money to get that big one up, they're probably doomed. So we'll see how that works out. I think it's a good change. It would have been interesting perhaps to see a small tweak to the Bernie stuff to reduce the power of the mortar early on. But we'll see. This could be a critical change, I think, and I'll be interested to see how that plays out. So the tack shooter has had its pierce has increased from 2 to 3 for the 0-3 blade shooter. This is cool. I don't see people using blade shooters a lot, and yes, unless they're using the blade maelstrom. And that increase in the pierce is going to make a difference. It's not a particularly expensive tower to get up, and I think it has a lot. It can pop a lot of balloons. So let's see how that works out. Okay, moving along to the heli pilot, the 0-4 support Chinook has had its ability cooldown timer corrected. It used to be exploitable, and you could use the ability again too quickly. And that's been fixed up. Also, the Engineer 0-4 overclock ability cooldown timer has had the same problem, and that's also been fixed up. So now you will need to wait the full cooldown period before using the ability. So that wraps up the tower changes. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that the big one mortar slight nerf is going to affect that strategy? Is it going to take away that strategy's crown as the probably most popular strategy to use in arenas at the moment? Will the Cobra adjustment price increase affect the Cobra strategy? Let me know what you think about that. Was it a big enough change? I know a lot of people were calling for Cobra nerfs. I think you don't want to nerf the Cobra so much that it just destroys the Cobra, because he is kind of a fun tower. You don't want him to become so underpowered that nobody ever uses him, but you want him to be balanced so that if the opponent is careful and plays it right, they hopefully can get up a good defense and have a decent chance surviving against balloon adjustment. And I hope that misdirection price increase, it makes it a little bit fairer, I think, because at the moment, if you use a pirate ship, Pirate Hook's ability, it's more expensive, and it does destroy the BFB, but misdirection is arguably better because it doesn't destroy the BFB, it just sends it back at the opponent, who then has to deal with it themselves. So misdirection is pretty OP, and I think making that more expensive is definitely a good thing. Update that I'm most excited about, though, is definitely the village. The village has been one of my favourite towers since the beginning of my BTD Battles career. I've used it in the early days. I used to use Ninja Bomb village. That was before I kind of really understood how to play the game, but the village intrigued me with all of its, you know, special abilities and upgrades. The fact that it reduced cooldowns, the fact that it gave you more eco, an eco boost if you get the Monkey Town upgrade, the camo detection, meaning that you could then use ice towers and glue gunners to defend things that you wouldn't have been able to before. Camo, that is. And so I think I'm really excited to see the village get that huge buff. For me, that's the most exciting thing in this update, that the village is now going to become a really useful support tower, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. In the background, we have BRUNO and I playing a pretty crazy match where we tested out Glue Village and Cobras, and just to get a sense of how that balance played out. You can see the little red square in the corner. That's because we're playing on the dev build. The other game that I've shown in the background today while I've talked about the updates is me playing versus Chris Harris. Now, I think a lot of you will know who Chris Harris is. Chris Harris was the infamous person who was, in the early days, responsible for doing basically everything at Ninja Kiwi. If you checked out any of the forums, Chris Harris was always the guy who uploaded the games. He seemed to do everything. He seemed to design the monkeys, he seemed to program it. Chris Harris, he's one of the two brothers who founded Ninja Kiwi and a dear friend of mine. So I was very lucky to have a few games with him. So you can see a little bit of footage of me playing versus Chris in the background. Hope you enjoyed. Signing out now, but let me know what you think about these balance changes in the comments. Smash the like button. Doing our best to bring you the news as we see it, and gather your opinions and feelings on these updates so that we can pass that on to the dev team here as well and let them know what you think about these changes too. Alright, have an awesome day. See you guys soon. Take care.